The simple question we all ask ourselves every single day: what has the world come to? And before we get into today's video, I wanted to spread that love real quick, and I hope everybody is blessed, well, and healthy, and that nothing but the best is going on in all you beautiful people's life. Just here to spread that love, that positivity, and that good energy to the beautiful people around the world to keep coming family on this channel. Y'all know everybody is loved and accepted, and we wishing the best in everybody's life, in your finances, your marriages, your relationships, your friendships, your love life, your jobs, your careers, your occupations, man. But shout out to Teresa for sending this over. And y'all know I love this homie right here, man. Grandma always has amazing content. And I will leave the original link in the description box down below for you guys to check it out for yourself. But shout out to Teresa that sent this one over in my email section for me to react to and check out and give a shot to. But shout out to this brother, man. And it's called Americans Will Run Out of Money by January 1st. So let's go back into my other reaction mode. And we're going to check this bad boy out. Move me to the side a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get a little creative with y'all real quick, man. Yeah. Get creative with y'all real quick. But let's check this out, y'all. Americans will run out of money by January 1st. Y'all already know how this video going to be, man. That's why I'm wishing the best in all you guys' life, man. For real. We're going to get real in this video. Topics that is just real life and what's going on. Most definitely. Let's check it out.
What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So it's official. 80% of Americans have already run out of money. And
yeah. Hey, drop a like. Subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And I love you all. And I'm wishing the best in all you guys' life. No matter if you don't got no money or not. Okay? Because at the end of the day, life is precious and we all got to die someday.
it's about to get a lot worse over these next few months. That's right, a new survey just found that despite the personal savings rate hovering near a 10-year low, consumers are still spending the majority of their discretionary income. So much, in fact, that some estimates claim they'll have nothing left by the end of the year. That's why we should really break down exactly what's going on, what this means for all of you watching, the impact this is about to have throughout the entire economy, and the steps that you could begin taking to save more money immediately. Because I have to say, time is running out very quickly for a lot of people. Although before we go into that, as usual, if you guys appreciate these videos or you find them helpful, it means the world to me if you hit the like button or subscribe. Doing that helps out the entire channel tremendously, and as a thank you for doing that, here's a picture of a baby squirrel. So thank you guys so much, and also a big thank you to Cook Unity for sponsoring today's video, but more on that later. Alright, so first of all, before we go into the gruesome details, it should be no surprise that almost everything costs substantially more today than it did prior to 2020. And if you're ready for a shocker, I hope you're sitting down, because these are the things that have gone up the most in price. Let's start with the popular one, new and used cars. Like, we've all heard that the average car payment hit a record high of $700.
Wasn't it like 700? Yeah. Some were saying it's getting close to almost 800 now. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Used car. Used. We didn't say new, fella. We said used. And I've been through this myself, paying over $700 for a used car. Yeah, I'm there with y'all, you know, and I can fully admit to it and take full responsibility of it. Yes, indeed. You know what I'm saying?
$133 a month, but in terms of how this compares just a few years ago, new cars are costing you 30% more and a used car is almost 50% more. Second, we then have housing. When it comes to rent, prices are 26% higher than they were back in 2019. Purchase prices are also up by 28%, but that's if you pay cash. If you get a loan, higher interest rates actually make your payment 60% more expensive. Third, we all need to eat, so we also have to factor in food. According to the World Economic Forum, it's almost 30% more expensive to eat a meal today than it was in 2019. This also includes a variety of food shortages, like the cost of eggs reaching a record high, margarine costing 38.3% more, and Walmart chicken prices also rising by the same amount. Now, fourth, what's life without a little vacation? And if you like to travel, well, that'll cost you a lot more. Both gasoline and airline fares are both up 40%. Hotel prices are up 15%. And should you need to rent a car at your final destination, that'll cost you 50% more. Now, fifth, don't you worry, because even though expenses are going up, there is some good news. Wages are also going up. Kind of. Among the lowest, 90th percentile of workers, wages increased a full 9% from 2019 through 2022. For most middle-class incomes, wages increased between 1.8 to 4%, and in the top 10% bracket, wages increased 4.9%. So technically, unless you're making 30 to 50% more money today than you were back then, most likely you're not making as much money as you think, which is partially because of number 6, we can't talk about rising prices without talking about rising interest rates. From January of 2020 through today, the federal funds rate has increased from 1.5% to 5.25%, with most of that coming in the last 18 months. As a result, financing anything has become significantly more expensive, and when people have less money to spend, they're more likely to finance something, which means they have even less money available, which repeats the cycle over again. And finally, 7th, we have money printing. Now, this is not meant to be a statistical analysis by any means, and it's more so me trying to contextualize a very complex topic. But when you look at the US money supply, we saw a 40% increase within a matter of 3 years. And with that in mind, it's really no surprise how almost every single category went up by almost the exact same amount in that exact same time frame. So now that you have some of the background out of the way, let's talk about another topic that's gaining a lot of popularity, and that would be saving money. Look, it's not like most people are the real-life versions of extreme cheapskates to try to save a few pennies a month, but the average savings...
Oh, she digging in the trash. It's hard out here. Trying to find you an old combo out the trash can. Golly.
Rate is going down by a lot and currently stands at just 3.9%. And that's what brings me to this claim that Americans are about to run out of money. See, all of this begins with the term pandemic savings. This refers to all of the excess savings that Americans were able to accumulate for staying home, receiving unemployment, getting stimulus checks, and otherwise seeing a surplus of money being deposited into their account without a means to spend it. Then a few months later, in 2021, SPG Global predicted that trillions of dollars of excess savings would be unleashed once the pandemic was over. And yep, it sure has, with more than $1 trillion just being spent online in 2022. The problem, however, was that a lot of this spending didn't stop. It just continued. According to the Wall Street Journal, Americans spent more on groceries, recreational goods and vehicles, and on services such as housing, dining out, and insurance. They also went on to clarify that as far as recreational activities are concerned, Americans opened their wallets more for travel, as well as the Barbie film, Beyonce's Renaissance Tour, and Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, where someone paid almost $90,000 for a ticket in row 25. Why would you do that?
It's Taylor Swift! I'm a Swiftie! Oh, man! I love y'all, man. Y'all are comedy. Y'all are comedy. Don't come over here laughing. This is real life stuff and you laughing. What is wrong with you? Okay, you stop laughing. You know we are struggling out here. You stop that laughing right now. Unbelievable. Come on here laughing. Think it's tough, it's funny. And people are spending $100,000 on Taylor Swift concert tickets.
Anyways, you could see since the pandemic, spending across almost all categories has increased between 20 to 50%, often beyond the rate of inflation, meaning Americans are running out of money, and that causes people to wonder, how long could this last? And how cool is it that Taylor Swift just made Travis Kelce famous? Okay, jokes aside, in terms of when Americans will run out of money, it really just depends on who you ask. Like Bank of America went on record to say that in September, median household savings and checking balances were up by more than 40% relative to 2019 for low, medium, and high-income households. Chase Bank also tends to agree with this, pointing out that across their customers, the median bank balance across all income groups still remained between 10 and 15% higher at the end of the first quarter of 2023 than at the end of 2019. However, separate research from the San Francisco Fed suggested that Americans have burned through more than 90% of the excess savings they amassed in 2020 and 2021. What little remains, the economists estimate, is likely to be gone by the end of September, which, as I'm sure you've noticed, has already passed. Other Federal Reserve members had also previously predicted that excess savings would be running out earlier this year, which again proved to be inaccurate. Although the real answer tends to be that it's just impossible to tell. For instance, Goldman Sachs believes that there's very little reason to think that households will ever get through their excess savings completely. But by and large, regardless of the studies, American finances are seemingly only getting worse. And in terms of where things are falling apart and how you could save save some extra money, here's what I think. Although before we go into that, look, I know we often talk about money here on the channel, and I don't want to take away from that, but at the core, your health is paramount. I know for myself, there's been plenty of times where I've just been too busy to eat as healthy as I should have, or I just grab random snacks throughout the day to get myself by. However, after
this is the sponsor, y'all.
Main categories, with the first being a rising cost of living. In fact, 84% said that they felt their expenses continued growing larger by the month, with half of those believing that inflation will continue. A smaller portion cited rising transportation and housing prices as eating into their budget, but by and large, prices are still expected to rise over the next 12 months. Number 2, we have rising debt. According to the survey, twice as many participants said that their debt had increased versus decreased. In addition to that, 90% said that they had no intention of moving or renting a new home, with the primary reason being that they couldn't afford it. We've also seen that the percentage of credit card holders carrying debt has increased to 46%, up from 39% a year ago, and auto loan delinquencies are at their highest level since 2006. Third, it's also worth considering that pandemic relief has ended. When it comes to this, more than 55% of Americans said that they received some form of stimulus throughout the pandemic.
Stimulus was good, wasn't it? Hey, you hit good, didn't you? Life was good seeing that money in your account, huh? Life was good, man. Life, who the hell called? Hey, man, y'all stop calling me, man. People out here struggling, y'all calling me. Stop calling me, man. I'm tired. I'm sick. I'm exhausted.
Pandemic, and it mattered to them, with more than a third saying it was very important to their financial well-being. But now, with practically all measures having ended, including student loan forbearance, the burden now once again falls back on the consumer. Now, fourth, essential spending is becoming more common. This means that people are starting to find creative ways to scale back. In fact, it's so prevalent that 92% of adults have reduced their spending in the last 6 months, and 76% plan to scale back on their holiday spending throughout the rest of the year. In addition to that, the most common categories seeing the biggest pullbacks are in apparel and clothing, restaurants and bars, and entertainment outside of the house, with groceries, recreational travel, and electronics coming in not too far below. And finally, fifth, the income bracket being hit the hardest from all of this are those making under $50,000 a year. The reality is, this income range has the lowest disposable income, they are affected the most by rising prices, they already have the least amount of money to spend, and as a result, they're often the ones accumulating the highest amount of debt in the process. So now that you know exactly what's happening and where it's all going, here are the things that you could begin doing immediately to prepare, and that way you'll be in the best position possible to try to get yourself through. To start, I mentioned this before, but one of the best insights really comes from the Consumer Expenditure Survey, which compiles exactly where the average American is spending their money. And wow, is it a lot. On the surface, the average household brought in $94,000 a year before taxes, but with so many of those earners living paycheck to paycheck, everything you need to know is found right here in their budgets. So here's precisely where their money is going and what you're able to do about it. As you're able to see, the largest expense here goes to housing, with the average person spending 33% of their budget, or $24,000 a year. Now, since this is the largest expense by far, it makes sense that we place the biggest importance here. And in terms of the ways that you're able to save from this, first, I recommend renting out any unused spaces, such as storage, a garage, or an unused bedroom that you could rent out to a roommate. The benefit to you is that you'll be able to have someone else help out with your overhead, you'll be able to provide an affordable place for someone else that's otherwise not being used, and all of that money is extra that you could save and invest. Alternatively, if you rent, you could also look into renegotiating your lease, moving to a slightly less expensive area, or downsizing to save the difference. Rents are also currently falling across many cities, so use this to your advantage. The second largest expense comes from transportation at $12,295 a year. Now, a lot of this is the result of increased fuel costs, but objectively, spending more than $1,000 a month to get around is probably a lot higher than it needs to be. Plus, to make matters worse, the average interest rate for a brand new car is now between 6 to 9%. So here's my recommendation.
The average is 8% on interest rates right now, y'all. What is going on? I know. All-time high. Some people, like, I was watching a video yesterday, they were like, man, just do not go buy anything right now. Yeah, unless you got cash for it. What they say, unless you got cash for it. Unless you got cash for it.
Recommendation. Unless you need a nice car for professional use, go and get yourself the most reliable, affordable, good on gas car you can, and then drive it until it doesn't run anymore.
Drive it till the wheels fall off, till the alternator blow, till that radiator fall on the floor. Oh, even when that check engine light on, ride it.
It's probably not going to be the coolest car, but a 2008 to 2012 Toyota Camry is probably going to cost you less than $12,000. It's incredibly reliable, it's good on gas, it's cheap with insurance, parts are readily available, and they're not going to lose that much value. For example, a new Toyota Camry could cost you $33,000, but buy one that's 8 years old and all of a sudden it's 60% cheaper. Or buy a car that's 11 years old and it's 70% cheaper. From this, as you could see, the difference between a 2015 and a 2012
Be like, I don't want that old ass car. I'm telling you, that car it's nice looking. It's reliable as hell. Okay. I mean, you could ride another 30, 40 years, 500,000 miles.
Is just $3,000, and that means the car is only losing $83 a month in depreciation compared to the new car, which loses over $200 a month. On top of that, when you consider that the average American buys a brand new car every 6 years, that depreciation quickly begins adding up and quickly turns into a giant money pit. After that, we have yet another necessity, and that would be food, at 12.8% of the average budget, or $9,300 a year. According to this study, more than half of that, at 56%, is attributed to food away from home, or basically eating out at restaurants or buying snacks throughout the day. Now, I'm not going to sit here behind a screen and yell at you to stop spending money at restaurants or check out Cook Unity instead of picking up fast food on the way home, even though both of those would be easy ways to cut back on spending, but instead I'll take a more reasonable approach. I think if you're dining out, going to restaurants, or getting food to go on the way home, just avoid doing that out of laziness. Like if you're buying a $20 lunch at work every day because you don't feel like packing food from home, stop doing that immediately. You're wasting money. However, if your idea of a good time is maybe going and networking every now and then, or having food with friends at dinner once a week if you can afford it, then by all means, do it occasionally. By doing this, even if you're able to save just $100 a month by cutting back, all of that is extra money that you could save and invest to put yourself ahead financially. And finally, the fourth largest expenditure would be personal insurance and pensions at $8,700 a year. But since Social Security and pensions are usually a fixed cost depending on where you work, overall personal insurance is something that you could shop around. And I think you would be completely surprised by how much money you could potentially save just by shopping around, calling a few companies, and seeing just what else is out there. After all, I was able to save 15% of my car insurance by smashing the like button and subscribing if you haven't done that already. Okay, no, but in all seriousness, I did this recently and I was able to save $130 a month by shopping around some new plans, and I was able to get more coverage in the process for less money. Without trying to sound too confident here, I have a strong feeling that if you just spent 1 hour shopping around personal insurance, home insurance, car insurance, and renter's insurance, there should be almost no reason that you can't save between $20 and $50 a month with minimal effort. Beyond that, though, there are plenty of other additional expenses that just continually add up that you could easily cut back on. For example, $583 spent on alcohol, $1,945 on clothing, $300.
Some of y'all drunk right now. It's okay. I know. Drink one for me, pour it up for me.
$71 spent on tobacco, and almost $3,500 spent on entertainment. So obviously, all of these are things that you could consider cutting back on, but by and large, you are going to get the highest ROI focusing on the biggest ticket items first, which tend to be housing, transportation, and food. So in terms of my own thoughts, yes, Americans are running out of money, but in terms of a clickbait standpoint, this really only applies to the excess savings that was accumulated during the pandemic. So my best guess is that people will unconsciously spend whatever they have left over and then revert back to a bare bones approach when they absolutely have to. Unfortunately, this just seems to be human nature, and it's likely that our economy will begin to slow down as a result. But let me know what you guys think of all of this, how you're handling increased costs, and your overall thoughts. I'd love to hear them, and I will do my best to respond to as many comments as I can. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, feel free to add me on Snapchat and Instagram, and don't forget that you can get some free stocks worth all the way up to a few $1,000s when you make it to.
All right, man. So I guess everybody going broke by January 1st, 2024. But again, before we get out of here, I want to end this video on a positive note. I want to wish nothing but the best in all you guys' life. You know what I'm saying? In your finances, your marriages, your relationships, your friendships, your love life. that your jobs and careers, you know, are boosted, that everything in your life is boosted, that new opportunities come, you know what I'm saying? New blessings, new beginnings come to all you guys, man. I love y'all. And shout out to Graham for the amazing video. I will leave the original link in the description box down below. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace and love, y'all. And shout out to Teresa for sending this over for me to react to.